All right, let's rock it, my friends. Let's go to fiction world, see what's happening, and talk to our friends from the Outer Limits. Now, over the next few weeks, I got some plans to do some showings of a couple clips that I want to study, and we're going to go with some more writers and short stories that will be highly enjoyable. I hope you like that conversation about David Morrell and the creation of Rambo, but also that other character, the Thomas de Chancey character from 1850s London. Very interesting character. Those books are really, really cool. So, yeah, and David Morrell's a really interesting guy, too. So let's get interesting with a couple writers writing short stories, and we'll update you on what's going on with Tower, the novella I've been writing.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
All right. Thank you, Outer Limits control voice guy. I don't know who that guy was. That would be fun to meet that guy. That would be a lot of fun. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what we got to do on Wednesday. So just want to make sure that I give this to you. Wednesday, we got to discuss David Morrell, and there is David's video that we separated for former Star Trek writing fellow, that channel. That's episode 18. Try Rambo creator David Morrell's novels. I think you'll dig them. And so hopefully you'll get a chance to check that out and read a little bit about his Victorian thrillers, the trilogy. And the one that I don't have, it's actually a nonfiction piece. It's called The Lotus Eater. And that one is actually about that guy, the Thomas de Chancey character, and about his real life. Because David Morrell has done a series of short biographies. He did one on, I think, Marilyn Monroe. He's done one on, was it Harry James, was a jazz musician. And he did one about that character, too, because he's a very interesting character. So I hope you'll check out the video about David Morrell. And if you're new to the former Star Trek writing fellow channel, sign up and, tell people about it and have a good time and enjoy for a Friday night. And Skunk Hollow, thanks. He says, fiction me. All right. Now I want to give you a couple stories by people. I've met both of these people. And they're both real nice guys. And this is a collection that actually got the Stoker Award. It's an anthology that won the Stoker Award a number of years ago. It's called Horrors, 365 Scary Stories. All right, as I jump around there. It was actually one of these Barnes & Noble releases, so they put them out real cheap. And they're great. They're just fantastic little things. Was it Fall Rivers Press or whatever? But I want to read you one from a guy. I met him numerous times, and his stuff can be pretty grisly. And he's such a nice guy. He's such a low-key guy. Tim Waggoner. So let me show you this. This is Along for the Ride by Tim Waggoner. And if you're just audio, it's Waggoner, Tim Waggoner. And these are super short stories, okay? So here we go. Alan sat behind the wheel of the silver Camry, or rather, what appeared to be a silver Camry, and stared out at the highway rolling toward him, his hands resting limply in his lap. His throat felt caked with dust, and his stomach was an empty, aching pit. How long had it been since he'd had something to eat or drink? Days? Weeks? Surely not weeks. He would have died of thirst by now. Unless, of course, the car, or whatever it was doing something to keep him alive. He was so weak. He would have slumped over some time ago, but the seat gripped him tightly and kept him upright in order to maintain the illusion of car and driver. At least, that's what Alan thought. He had no way to be certain. It was just another dawn, and the highway was deserted. They were completely alone on the road, so the car didn't bother feigning the sound of a working engine. They glided across the asphalt silently, their motion slightly off, as if the vehicle weren't moving by rolling along on tires, but rather by some other mechanism. Alan had the impression of thousands, maybe millions, of scuttling insect legs, but that could very well have been due to his delirium. He was so weak, so tired, but the car wouldn't let him sleep. For some reason, it needed him awake. Perhaps it couldn't feed as effectively if he slept. Several days, weeks back, Alan had been blazing down State Route 38, heading for a sales meeting in Cleveland. He had plenty of time. The meeting wasn't until the next day, but he was paranoid about missing it, so he pushed his old Sentra's little engine as hard as he could to squeeze as much speed out of it as possible. And so he had flashed right by the silver Camry, parked alongside the road, barely registering at first that its hood was up, and a blonde woman was inspecting the engine. But over the next couple of miles, the impressions of what he had seen filtered into his consciousness, and he realized what he had passed: a motorist, maybe a good-looking one, in trouble. Ordinarily, Alan didn't stop to help out people with car problems. After all, these days, you could never tell. You could end up delivering yourself into the hands of a robber, or worse, a serial killer. But Route 38 wasn't all that much. It could be some time before anyone else came along to help her. Besides, despite his haste, he knew he had plenty of time to get to Cleveland. He took the next exit and turned around. She looked relieved when he pulled up behind her Camry and parked. Alan gave her his best smile as he got out of his car. "Having some trouble?" She smiled back weakly. "You don't know the half of it." Now that he was getting closer, he could see that her white blouse and jeans hung loosely on her. Her hair was tangled and matted, eyes sunken into the sockets, cheeks drawn tight against the bone, lips dry and chapped. Was she sick? He felt a strong instinct to get back into his car and get the hell out of there. But he didn't. He couldn't very well leave her stranded like this. "I'm not much with cars, but let me take a look," he said. But as he walked past the driver's side of her vehicle, the Camry's door flew open, and the seat reached out toward him. As it pulled him in, he thought he heard the woman say, "I'm sorry," before collapsing to the ground. And then the door slammed shut. The car had taken care of the woman's body, waste not, want not, before pulling onto the road, leaving his Sentra behind. Over the years, Alan had always wondered where all the abandoned cars parked along the highway came from. Now he knew. He didn't have much energy left, and he could feel the car's hunger for a fresh supply growing. It wouldn't be long before they'd be stopping soon. Not long before he was forced to stand before the open hood and stare down into what only resembled an engine, before he was used as a lure for another foolish Good Samaritan. He prayed to God that it would happen soon. So that's Along for the Ride by Tim Waggoner. Very short one. Now I'm going to give you this one. This is called After Work by Steve Rasnic Tim. He and Melanie Tim, his wife, she passed away, but they were very popular writing team, Steve and Melanie. After Work. Derek got home late after work. His eyes burned. He probably looked like he'd been crying, he thought, and his neck bothered him. No amount of rubbing helped the pain in his neck. The kitchen was empty, no signs of cooking. No signs that Marie had even bothered to fix herself lunch. Several wadded tissues littered the floor. The box on the counter was empty. The house held its breath. The cold quiet was a familiar song for Derek. He plopped down in a kitchen chair and hung his head. "Ah, Marie," he said softly to the yellowing floor. "Please, Marie, this has got to stop." Despite the cold, he couldn't stop perspiring. Sweat from his forehead oozed into his right eye. It burned like some kind of chemical. Both eyes watered, spilled. Ah, sweet Marie. Derek climbed from the chair with painful effort. He walked to their bedroom, pushed open the door. Marie hung from the light fixture, head tilted as if questioning, face the color and apparent consistency of blended children's clay, like the kind their only daughter had used. Derek had sent their daughter to live with his parents months ago. A kiss of blood spotted the left-hand corner of Marie's mouth. Something new. He supposed she'd bitten her tongue. Derek felt the wetness on his cheeks, used 2 fingers to touch it and wipe it away. He imagined he could tell the difference between sweat and tears just by touching. He wondered if blood felt different. He stared at her. Not for the last time, he knew. Marie had always been such a beautiful woman. "God, Marie," he said, and he could feel her name breaking up in his throat. "Why did you do this to me?" He walked around her. He picked up the fallen chair and set it aside. He reached out to touch her, hesitated, then changed his mind. "I'm going back," he told her. "I volunteered for a double shift." Marie opened her eyes. She looked at him wordlessly. She reached up her hands to loosen the noose, slipped out of it, and dropped to the floor. The deep purple crease in her neck looked brilliant and artificial, like the latest trend in makeup. But of course, Derek knew it was real. She raised a hand to either side of her head and pushed it upright. She leaned over and spat a mouthful of blood onto the rug. She looked at him again, her eyes wider than anyone's Derek had ever seen. "You're always working," she said. "You bastard. You're always leaving me alone." "I did the best for us I knew how. You and the baby," he replied. "A double shift," she said, walking in circles, gazing up at the empty noose. "How many times is that this week? You're wearing yourself out. You're killing yourself." Derek started to titter. Then he lost himself in exhausted laughter. Marie eyed him coolly. "Killing yourself?" He laughed again. "Why shouldn't I be working double shifts? Why should I want to come home when half the time I pretty much know what I'm going to find here? I'm going to find you. How many times is that this week?" he repeated and gestured at the noose. She strolled clumsily over to the chair. He didn't think she could move any faster or better. She moved the chair under the light. "Marie," he shouted, "you know I don't deserve this." She climbed up on the chair, weaving as she reached up for the noose. "Ah, Marie," he moaned in resignation. She positioned the noose around her neck and tightened it. She held her head to the side just so. She kicked the chair out from under her, and she kicked. Once again she had hanged herself, and once again Derek had to look at her and think about how beautiful she used to be. Interesting. Now, you make sense out of that however you want to. Super short flash fiction on that one from Steve Rasnic Tim. Now I'll give you the update from Tower and get your thoughts about those stories. I like Tim's more than Steve's. And Birdhouse Blue says, killing yourself to live. Obviously metaphysical stuff there, but interesting. And let's see, these are all super short stories. And Birdhouse liked that other one, yeah. Nice and short indeed. I have a short attention span tonight, so it works out well. Okay, yeah. All right, let's roll. Let's get to Tower. Yeah, we're going to roll it. Now, again, real quick, if you're just joining us and you're not familiar with Tower, man and a woman, Paul and Caroline, 1960. They work for the Forestry Service of Vermont. They are assigned, their first time they're working together, they're assigned in mid to late November to go close a place, and it's a fire tower that used to be located in a town decades before called Frenton, really small town, only a few houses there, small community. And it was taken by eminent domain. They flooded it, turned it into a gigantic reservoir deep in the middle of a deep, deep forest that has a fence around it. Nobody's supposed to go there. It's not in use. There's no power. There's no radio relay. It's not used anymore. Now the hill is now an island in the middle of this giant lake, and there's no trees on it. It's just scrub. There are no trees on it. It's just scrub and rocks, and it's very cold, very close to having ice, but not quite. They have to take a canoe across. There's barbed wire around the pylons for this tower, and on the barbed wire, they notice there are these black ribbons, and someone they don't know when, did break in and didn't really do much, but left some very strange graffiti on the wall. And they suspect that now they recognize the writing as the writing of one of these people who worked in the Forestry Service named Davis, who we don't know exactly the circumstances, but he no longer works there. And it looks like he was preying upon some of the women with whom he worked, and maybe even one of the lady's daughters. So the man Paul and this woman Caroline are stuck there now. They when they got the Jeep to drive out there, she didn't sign the requisition form, and Davis, whoever this Davis guy was, took the last visit off the schedule, so nobody knows that they're actually supposed to be there. And they start on a Friday. It's very cold, and Paul tries to get the canoe that they brought over. It has been blown out by the wind. He tried to get it back from the lake, but he couldn't do it. So they're sort of stuck there. They're expecting help to come. They decide maybe they'll get some fish, and Paul gets food poisoning. So it's a rough situation for them. And so Caroline's got to try to take care of him. And so here's how it goes. He ends up getting up, and he thinks, okay, I'm going to do better. And he gets up and he says, it's only for a few days. And unfortunately, you can see here, it was not for a few days. As Sunday hardened into Monday, the world, time, and her mind seemed to grow colder, rigid, stuck in an ever more frozen state. No one came. Their provisions dwindled to nearly nothing, and what they did have proved nearly useless for Paul, and he's still sick. He's got some problem from that fish. He keeps going through bouts of eating and then, not having the ability to eat. And Paul seemingly could not eat more than a few bites before he would wince and need to vomit or need to sleep. He grew paler and weaker, and Caroline struggles to keep the fire burning as a sign of hope, if not a small protection against the increasing cold and deepening snow, were only slightly more effective than her fruitless attempts to catch more fish. Sometimes Paul would awaken with vivid clarity, and she would help him into a sitting position, telling him the day was Sunday or Monday, and offering him an estimation of the time. She would try to get him to drink and eat something, and at first he would transmit a thankful, hopeful expression, perhaps a nod, a smile, and then make the attempt. But the repeatedly disastrous results soon saw him lose that enthusiastic energy. Worse, it saw him drop even the pretense of hope, letting his brave face slip and yield to something animal-like, a mindset simultaneously skittish and wary. He did not fear her or her intentions, she could tell. He feared the idea of ingesting food, the very material he needed to enter his system. At times, he would teeter on the edge of delirium and waken with moans and mumbled, half-formed sentences with eyes that glanced suspiciously at the thick darkness and gray daylight, at the circling flow of the nighttime stars and the path of the occluded sun. And she would watch, helpless, as repeated snow squalls and harsh gusts whipped in from the north, down the length of the lake, where they were cupped and amplified by the forest walls, by the heaving, waving pine boughs that rippled with an almost perverse reverence, a form of agitation that only the natural world could understand. She watched and struggled and found herself drawn into realms of desperation, seeking any answer, any way to get him off the island, or to get herself off the rock and find him help. But there was no answer, and the food ran out. On the fourth day, late Tuesday afternoon, with the fire fed and her stomach aching for something more than a small bite or a mug of water, she handed him the last of the chocolate, and she sat beside him, feeling the grip around her middle and the desperation it produced. And when she was settled, with her back against the inner edge of one of the filing cabinets that formed their makeshift hearth, her gloved fingers clutching the torn Hershey's wrapper, and her thoughts dwelling on how their simple attempt to catch fish had led to such disaster, she saw him raise his hand and offer the morsel back to her, his grizzled cheeks and cracked lips forming what looked like a grin. "Paul, that's all we have. You've got to keep trying." "I have worms, Caroline. They're in me from the fish." "You can't be sure." She poked the candy back at him, and this time he relented, solemnly nodding, then tentatively, cautiously eating. For a moment, his whiskers shone in the firelight like iron filings beneath a magnet, each tiny spike of hair moving with the others in an almost hypnotic, hydraulic manner. And then he swallowed and sighed. "Thank you." And he stirred. "What are you doing?" She lent a hand to stabilize him as he got into a crouch and pushed himself to stand. "You make sense. I can't let myself atrophy. I need to keep moving. We'll get through this with a little hunger, and the forestry teams will find us, or the police will get here. And in the meantime, I need to move, to help. I don't feel too bad now, so we'll just roll the dice and see." He picked up some of the empty mugs from near the fire. "I have to pee, and I'll get more water." "It's pretty stormy out there, Paul." "Long as I don't slip and break something, I'll be fine," he said, and took the other mugs that were on the central table. "I'll see you in a few." She moved with him to the door, concerned and relieved at the same time, and let him open it, watching him step into the whipping snow streaks and dying gray light before she shut the metal barrier and turned towards the north-facing windows. He emerged beneath her like a shadow, his hunkering form a mere brushstroke of gray on a cheerless Whistler canvas. For a moment, the man-shaped smudge moved across the small open area where he had written SOS in stones, and he put down the mugs, using both hands to brush off the snow, when he should have known that the snow falling from the lidded sky would cover the message in short notice. But this showed activity, even if it did not show sense, and Caroline imagined him feeling some hope and purpose in the motions. After he had revealed the dark letters, he retrieved the mugs and headed to the waterline. Caroline contemplated his weakened state, but assured herself he would not slip or be in danger. Then she turned back to the table to contemplate something else. The papers they could use as fuel, papers that, if they did not husband the resources properly, they could find in short supply as temperatures crept lower. There were all manner of charts and slips and notepads available to burn, all manner of records that, as she now knew, were meaningless in the grand arc of nature. Like a parasite, man rode along the hide of God, hubristically thinking he was in charge of himself and had sway over nature. But here, trapped as she was, she felt the mocking grin, the sly wink of the world, as it told her she mattered not the tiniest bit. The fire loudly popped, sending sparks onto the floor to her right, and she turned, glancing out the window, to see that Paul no longer was there. Blinking, leaning closer to the glass, she looked near the base and saw nothing. His SOS still shone, comically calling for no one except her to see. But Paul was gone, and she felt a sudden rush of heat in her chest. She looked out the window all around, then darted across the room, reached for the door handle, and heard his slow footsteps moving back up the stairs. He appeared pale, but smiling as she opened the door. "Your drinks, ma'am," he said in that mock British accent. And Caroline nodded and realized that her entire body had gone taut as a bowstring at the thought that he might be missing. "Well, your tip, sir, will have to be delayed." She stopped, peering over his shoulder, and Paul's brows tightened. He looked at her face. "What is it?" Then he turned, following her gaze. "Look," she whispered, "look." He spilled some of the water as he turned and tried to see through the wind-blown white. And across the lake, beyond the black water and the snowy, mud-crusted shore, beneath the shielding shadows of the tall and glowering pines, she hoped he perceived the same thing she did, because she did not want to be alone in what she saw. "Paul, I think someone just moved behind one of those trees." And that's where we end it so far. Hopefully that's good. What do you think? Heck yeah, says Birdhouse. All right. I like it. I like it. Yes. This is like the third or fourth day of being trapped on this island. Yeah. So they started on a Friday, and now it's Tuesday, and they don't have any more food. And he already got sick from trying to fish. Birdhouse says, "No way, OMG Gard." Jason, Nicest Storm, says Bigfoot. It's what's on, it was on Eric's t-shirt. It was Sasquatch. It was a squatch. So yeah. So there you go. What or who is out there? Who are you? Who? Yeah. I woke up in a Soho door where the policeman knew my name. Yes. Working and listening. Cheers, Gard and chat, says Dad Guy 24. Thanks, man. Yeah. I got to do a couple things to sort of tighten a couple little nuts and bolts within it. But so far so good. And we've gotten to the point where, yeah, things, I have to handle it very deftly right from this point on. And you might have noticed that there are things that are in there already that could have been red herrings. They could have been false leads. They could have been mysteries that aren't mysteries. But you'll see everything counts in small amounts. Everything counts in large amounts. I really want to know, says Jason. Absolutely. Yes, Birdhouse digs the tower updates. All right. And again, I'll have to tell you sometime the Sasquatch Club, the Bigfoot Club story that I have. And spooky, scary. Yeah, so she's seeing something. It's out there in the snow. It's a Yeti. Who knows what it is? But in the meantime, I better go. I'm going to leave you with our quick outro for the Outer Limits saying fare thee well and all that stuff. I will let the control voice lead us off. Don't forget, former Star Trek writing fellow. And, of course, please share the links and check out the Substack We'll have more going on Substack on Sunday with the Sunday News Assembly, and we'll start doing entertainment items as well. And if you want to subscribe over there, that supports what we're doing. It's going to be real solid coming up in the future. And we've got books to publish and lots to say. So have a great night, one and all. God bless you. And wasn't it great to see David do his thing today? That was awesome. Talk to you soon, everybody. Have a great night. Tomorrow, America Unplugged, Knights of the Storm, rock the house. Take care. Watch out for the bad guys on the lake.
Control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to the outer limits.